Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's lighting critique. We've got animation from Kat. We've got a simple one here from Brenda, but we've got Dani on the phone with us so far today. And Kevin, it's good to see you. This is the first time we've seen live Kevin.
I'm using my phone today.
All right, nice. All right, cool. All right, Dani, so we've got the two submissions here. We've got the robot and the room. Let's take a look at the room first. So the first thing that stood out to me, like overall, like the structure of it's where we want it, right? Like lights coming in at a good angle, it's illuminating the right part of the room. I like the way that things are like this couch is starting to get silhouetted a little bit. A couple things stood out to me as being a little bit too bright. Number one is the swords are kind of starting to glow a little bit. So let's push those back a little bit. I also, and I'm not saying it's technically wrong or anything, but the painting over here is feeling a little bit on the bright side. So I would just pull the gamma back or the gain back on that a little bit, just so because like it almost feels like it's being lit. It's, you know what I mean? The way that this one's kind of set back in there nicely. And other things. So the shadow underneath the chair is pretty sharp. I would try softening that a touch and maybe getting some like bounce in there, because it's like the light's hitting right here. You almost feel like it would rattle around in there a little bit.
The problem specifically with the couch, since it's getting the light from the key, and if I raise the radius of the key light, it hits more of the room.
Okay.
So is there an AOV that I can play with? Do you know?
I mean, you can break out a separate shadow, but that would do it for everything. My thought with that might be, so are you using a spotlight for the key light, for the sunlight?
Area light.
Area light. So, are you in? I think Arnold has this too. You might make it bigger, and then you might be able to like, it's like kind of a barn doorsy thing. I think Arnold has. I know Redshift has it. That you can kind of bring in the edges a little bit. So I would try that, and it might be a matter of switching to a spotlight so you can have that cone angle to control. Because that's how I would do it, because like then you can increase the radius without affecting and bring in the penumbra and edge angles, and that way it would bring it in but soften it inside that space.
Cool.
And then I want to see. So I like where this light's hitting coming through the window, but like right up here, it's losing a little bit of the directionality, and I think it's because we're getting some light in here. And I almost want that, because I want to tone that down, so it just feels like there's only light coming in through the window. It feels like there's a lot there. I'm not sure why.
Yeah.
And then overall, I would take the key light down a touch. I mean, more than just the swords. I I like that you've pushed it this far, because this gives us a little bit to pull it back from. Because I think it's just like looking at the pots on there, looking at the ground. It's like a little bit hot. But yeah, other than that, I think this is looking good.
Cool.
Great. All right, you guys have anything before we move on? Oh, we got Brenda and Diana here as well, I guess. All right. Okay, cool. So let's take a look at the robot. So this was interesting. After we got the submissions for this, I started to get a little bit more clarity on the eyes, which again, like as we were going through this, that was something I wasn't expecting as being such a big deal with him, but I really think it was. And so I would have you look at. There were a couple that I thought really did it quite well. I thought Juan Lopez did this really nicely. I would make the eye whites a little brighter than this, but I like how they feel more eye-like than some of the other ones have. right? Like they feel like they're looking down at the book. So just maybe try and adjust those a little bit and make them a little brighter to read. So we got this light shining here. Couple things. One, there's some like you can kind of see the geometry on top of this. Like it feels like it needs some smoothing up there eventually. Like I can just see it stair stepping down. And then once this light shines out, it does create some pretty hard shadows on things. So even though it's small, I think we should soften it a touch. And then even though there's really only like cool light in this scene, I don't think we should go quite this cool on her skin tone. I think we should allow her to live a little bit more in like this range. Because otherwise she's starting to look a little off color. This wall looks good. And then once you do a pass in the eyes, we'll visit how this light is interacting with this. Because it feels like it's lighting the diffuse on the robot, but I would like to see a little more reflection, specularity in there. But we'll take a look at that. And then because this on his hand is getting brighter than this on his face. And like that light source is very close, and the hand is getting lit from like something softer outside.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's start there, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So next up we'll go hop back into our videos. There you go. Just had them. Oh no, that. Okay. Okay. So we're here with Brenda. So I think the image itself is looking good. I love the addition of the dust particles, and you led me down a little bit of a rabbit hole where I was just looking at some stock footage of dust particles floating around. Like this feels pretty aggressive. Like so, because my first thought when I saw it was like, I feel like they're a little bit too fast, and I felt like they were a little bit too consistent. But that was just in my head, and I wanted to kind of look through some of these. And it turns out like there are a ton of websites, a ton of stock footage websites that have a lot of floating dust particles in light reference. And I think the biggest thing that I was discovering about them, like I like the pace of this one for the type of room that we're creating. And this might be slow motion. This might be at like a higher frame rate, but I like the feeling it's giving me. And I think that, that your room can kind of match that kind of like slow drifting a little bit, because there's nothing else in this room to really indicate time, right? There's no people moving. There's no, so we can really have it go at whatever rate we want. Anyone who has a newer Apple TV and those like screensaver things of like flyovers of cities, and I don't know if anyone has that, but it took me like a little while to recognize that they were all at high frame rates and everything was moving slow. I was like, why does this feel so peaceful? And it was because it was just moving slower than anything else. So one was the speed, and then the other thing that I was noticing from these was the variation in scale of them. Like there's some that are closer, some that are further away, some that get a little brighter, some you know what I mean? Like there's just a little bit more, even in this one that's moving kind of quickly, like whoa. There are some that are more in the light and more in the shadow, and then it's just like some are just a little closer to the camera. So we're not like up in there like we were in these other ones, but I do think that there's some of that we can work in, like variation in size and variation in like in some of the brightness of them. So it's just like yeah. So if you're doing this in the comp, it would literally be like a matter of I would just like roto some of these areas. Like roto this, roto in here, and just make those a little bit brighter, because we can. It's far enough back where we can play with it as if it's in 2D space and not necessarily that 3D kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but other than that, it looks pretty good. Maybe I would as I'm looking at this, just make these pieces of paper a little bit whiter, like a little bit brighter, like that much, not like that, like 10% brighter because
Okay.
yeah. Anybody else have anything on this other than the dust particles? It looks really good. Oh, also maybe tone down the spec on this umbrella. I meant to say that yesterday, especially the handle.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little bit bright.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay, last up we have we've got some frames here from Kat's piece, and I think this is the level of brightness I was generally looking for on these characters. I think this is feeling pretty good, and what we can do now is we can start playing up the warmth of the characters over this kind of generally darker, cooler background. It does have some like specular highlights in it and stuff, but I think that I think we can I think this is going to help us read some of these guys. Just step through this, that's a little bit choppy. There are some points where he gets very bright like that, but we can deal with that later. For now, I would leave those as is. I think the next step in something like this would be to add maybe pick like, because you don't want to do too many. I would pick like 4 areas of the background that are going to get some pockets of light. Like maybe, obviously there'd probably be some back over here because this is more of a depth thing. Like maybe, put in a light source like way back there. Maybe another one up here. Maybe like up on this level and on this level to show the height of it. Just like maybe even less than that. Maybe 3 or 4 sections of the room. Some back here, just to like pocket it up to feel like a little bit more in depth. Now, if we want, because this warmth over cool thing is working pretty well, we can do whatever we want. We can make those lights a little bit cooler and keep all the warm lights for our main character. Maybe just do that, or maybe just make them more neutral. And then we can start like dialing in some of the more character specific stuff. Do you guys have any thoughts for Kat before we break for the day?
I think there's a lot of hard shadows that come in.
Yeah, that's probably a good point too. So the radius of those lights and the edges of them, because right as he passes, like this level of harshness is it can definitely be softened. And there's a couple other points too. But yeah, like this kind of stuff we want to watch out for. But yeah. Like I said, but this is a slow burn project. Like this is similar to the other robot fight, except for more camera movement. So this is all about, once we get more into the specifics of the lighting, this is going to get all about making sure that we can read what's going on. I think that was always one of my, it's like a Transformers movie, like where you're watching a fight scene and you don't know who's who after half the time. You don't know, like, wait, is that the good one or is that the bad one? I never really know when I'm watching those. So we want to make sure to be able to like identify and track the characters throughout. It's pretty important for what we're doing. So, all right, cool. Let's break for the day right there. If you guys have questions, throw them up, and I will take a look later on. Like I said, keep me posted on how the lighting challenge is going. The Eddie, the creator of Griffin Academy, is incredibly responsive, and we both are pretty passionate about making sure that this is working, and also setting it up so that we can do future collaborations on future animation stuff, because the stuff that they create is really unique in the animated world from the other classes. Like I think I have a huge amount of respect for Anim School and Animation Mentor and all that, but what they're doing at Griffin, for the type of work they're producing, it's pretty dynamic, and I would love to get our hands on it more often.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right, guys, be good. I will talk to you all soon.
Thank you.
Yeah, happy lighting, everybody.
Thanks, bye.
Bye.
Bye.